Yo, it's your boy Smoke Bathroom Madden video. Today's video we're gonna be doing a free agency themed video, and we're gonna have every free agent or every single team that the free agents that they should be targeting. So obviously not every GM is gonna do everything perfect in the offseason and free agency, but if I was the GM of each team, this is personally what I would do. I feel like this is the best fit for them. So we're going to start off in alphabetical order, starting with the city name, and then work our way through. So let's go ahead and not waste too much time. Let's go with the Arizona Cardinals. Arizona Cardinals actually have due quite a bit of money, $69 million. So they could get quite a bit. I think they need a little bit of help on the defense. If you ask me, I think they should personally go after someone like Chase Young, DJ Reed, maybe Zach Bond if the Eagles are not able to re-sign him. But I will say they could go after T. Higgins. Even though T. Higgins is expected to be franchise tagged, they could go after T. Higgins because not that Marvin Harrison's bad. He's just not a true number one quite yet. It wasn't a bad rookie year whatsoever, but it was a little bit underperforming of what he was expected from, being a highly rated draft pick. But, it wasn't bad. I'm sure he'll be a good NFL player. All right, now let's go to the Atlanta Falcons. Atlanta Falcons, they are negative $11 million. So that's going to be pretty rough. Just so you know, every team is included. So even teams like the Saints, who are always in cap hell, and they struggle to get free agents, or they're just always in cap hell, like always. But even though the Saints are negative $50 million, I do have them having somebody. Obviously very cheap. But anyway, we'll get to that point when it comes. So Atlanta Falcons, negative $11 million. So obviously they're not going to get anybody too exciting, but I got Puda Ford or Devin Bush. Just a little bit help on that defensive side. They could use another defensive tackle. Grady Jarrett's getting a little old. And plus, I do believe they run a 4-3 more than a 3-4. So, yeah, Puda Ford, he's a solid defensive tackle. He's not a game changer, but he's not bad. And then Devin Bush, he's actually not too bad either. Pretty solid linebacker. And the Falcons, I actually like their offense. I don't think they need much help on offense. Maybe another receiver. But other than that, I think their offensive line is actually pretty underrated. All right, now the Baltimore Ravens. They only have $5 million to work with, but I got a few cheap options for the Baltimore Ravens. We could go Brad Brenderson, left guard from the Buccaneers. Or we could go with the right tackle, Kevin Beachum, or wide receiver, DJ Chark. It's really just up to the Ravens want. I think their defense is actually pretty solid. I don't think they really need to make any changes on the defense. So is their offense, obviously. With the Ravens, they just normally can't quite get it done in playoffs, which is sad for Lamar and Ravens fans, but their O-line does need some work. Okay, they are going to be losing Ronnie Stanley. He's already a free agent, so that's not happening. He's not getting re-signed, at least not to my knowledge, unless something happens within the next couple days here. But yeah, they're already losing Ronnie Stanley, and the offensive line didn't have that great of a year. Now let's go to the Buffalo Bills. Buffalo Bills are actually the third worst team in salary cap. They have negative $16 million, so that is not good, but I do got a few cheap options for them as well. They could go with DeMarcus Robinson, get another receiver. Josh Allen does actually kind of need another receiver. He made Khalil Shakir look good. Not that he's bad, but come on, let's be honest. Khalil Shakir, nobody was expecting him to be a true number one, and he played like it. I'll give him that, but you did have Josh Allen throwing you the ball. Not ripping on Khalil Shakir's game at all. I think he's good, but that being your number one and not having a solid number two with it, yes, they did trade for Amari Cooper, but he's a free agent. I don't know how interested he is in re-signing there or not. But anyway, DeMarcus Robinson will be a nice help. And then I got Marco Wilson. They could just get a little bit more depth at the quarterback position, and that would set them up pretty well. Again, obviously the Bills are a great team. They normally just can't get it quite done in playoffs, like the Baltimore Ravens. Carolina Panthers, they actually don't have a whole lot of money to spend. Only $16 million for, even though their team's kind of bad. But they could get potentially some more people on the defense. I'm going to go with the edge rushers here. We're going Dante Flower Jr. or maybe Emmanuel Ogba. Maybe they could go after Hollywood Brown. It would be Bryce Young does need another receiver, but I mean, I think they got to work on that defense a little bit. Their offensive line actually isn't horrible. I mean, I wouldn't say it's great, but it's actually not as bad as everyone says. It's a little bit better than what people give it credit for. Again, I'm not really sticking up for it. I'm just saying they have a few bright spots sometimes. I would personally, if I was the Carolina Panthers, I would try to address offensive line in the draft. That's just what I would do. Now we do have the Chicago Bears, and they have actually quite a bit of money to work with and a pretty established team. I mean, yeah, the Bears' record wasn't great, but I think their team's actually not too bad. Their defense is solid. Their offense is a work in progress, but I mean, still, Caleb Williams was young, so you can't harp on him too much for a year he had. Not that he had a bad year, but it just wasn't the greatest. But yeah, the Bears actually have a pretty established team. I would say their biggest weak spot is offensive line, and that is why the three possible free agents they could get, I have all offensive linemen. So they could either go after Ryan Kelly, the Colts center, former center. He's actually really solid. They go after Cam Robinson. They get a nice, somewhat young left tackle. He's 29 or 30, so he has still like 5 more years to play. Imagine 5 years of solid protection for Caleb Williams. That would probably be the best case scenario for Bears fans if they got Cam Robinson. But I'm telling you, Ryan Kelly would still be a good pickup as well. And they could maybe go with Mekhi Becton if they are able to land him. But the Chicago Bears, I mean, yeah, like they just need offensive line. They definitely do need help. I liked that. They tried to do it a little bit in the last offseason, but it did not work out well. And I think they are going to be losing Tevin Jenkins as well. So maybe they're going to need a guard as well to add on. But anyway, let's get on to the Cincinnati Bengals. The Cincinnati Bengals actually have $46 million to work with. So obviously, I'm gonna go with all defensive picks here, and maybe I should have picked one offensive lineman, but I'm not regretting it. We all seen how bad the Cincinnati Bengals defense was last season and how many games they cost Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase. They did have Trey Hendrickson, and they have a few other people that are all right, but I think they need another. I think they need a superstar on the defense and at least a few more average people to at least help balance it out. So I'm going to go with Chase Young. They could get Chase Young, and they could also get Josh Sweat. But I also got someone who won't be on the defensive line. I got Denzel Perryman, and they could potentially go after Javon Holland as well. So they could get either, honestly, they could really get whatever. But since they have so much money to spend, I put a couple big names in there. Best case scenario would probably be Javon Holland, or maybe they could go after Dre Greenlaw as well, because he is a free agent. I mean, he is coming off a year where he didn't play much because, obviously he got injured in the Super Bowl. But still, Dre Greenlaw is a really good linebacker. So it's really just what the Bengals decide what they need to do more. But I'm telling you right now, it is an absolute failure if the Cincinnati Bengals are not going to make at least somewhat of a big signing on defensive side of the ball, because they need it. Now let's go to the Cleveland Browns. This is going to be kind of rough for the Browns. They are negative $31 million, and that Deshaun Watson contract is not really paying out well. So I'm going to go ahead and say they could maybe try to get Russell Wilson from the division rival Pittsburgh Steelers. Russell Wilson or maybe Justin Fields. Either or. They could go after either or. Then I put defensive tackle Morgan Fox from the Los Angeles Chargers. They could use defensive tackle. Obviously, the juicier one is Russell Wilson or Justin Fields. Will the Cleveland Browns actually pull the trigger? I don't think they'll do it, but it would be an interesting scenario. Also, I feel like it will. I feel like it would work pretty well. Maybe if they got Justin Fields or something, but still. All right, now let's go to the Dallas Cowboys. And I got two linebackers here. I really think they need to improve their linebacker core. I got Robert Spillane and I got Denzel Perryman. Robert Spillane is actually a very underrated linebacker from the Las Vegas Raiders. I actually like his game a lot. And Denzel Perryman, he was really solid like 2 years ago, and just kind of getting to him. But, the Cowboys are just an interesting team in general. Obviously, Dak was injured this year, so they didn't get too far. And Dak had an amazing year 2 years ago. But this year, he did play, I can't remember how many games to a T, but I think he only played like 4 or 5 games, and he did bad in those games. So, I don't know if Dak, I don't know what's going on with Dak, or maybe he just had a little rough stint right there. So, now we're going to the Denver Broncos. I have a lot of people here. It's basically just all skill positions on offense and the best available. Now, the Broncos don't have a lot of money. They have $34 million. I mean, that's still a good bit, but it's not an extreme amount of money. But they could go after T. Higgins if he doesn't get franchise tagged. I would also say they should try to get Chris Godwin or Najee Harris or Aaron Jones. I think they need to get a running back in free agency. I don't think they should waste a draft pick on a running back. Not that it would be a waste. I think they should try to build a core of something else. Maybe draft a receiver. But, Chris Godwin would obviously be a good ad, so that's why I put him there. Because, he's a guaranteed. He's going to be a good receiver in the NFL. He's proven that. So, I would rather them take a shot on a receiver or someone on the defensive side of the ball. I mean, their defense doesn't need a whole lot of work, but yeah, they could add somebody in the draft. I'd rather them do that on the defensive side of the ball than get a running back, at least in this year's draft class. But if it's the late rounds, I mean, maybe they could take one. But I feel like Aaron Jones or Najee Harris will actually help the Broncos quite a bit. I just think they need a little bit more playmakers to help Bo Nix out. Now on to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, even though they are really good, they surprisingly have a lot of money. They have $44 million. So I'm going to go ahead, and I think the Lions need quarterbacks. The Lions are a stacked team, and they have a lot of people. They have not very many weaknesses. I would say quarterback is slightly a weakness, and if they do end up losing Carlton Davis, which they might, I would say they go ahead and sign Travis Ward from the 49ers or Byron Murphy if you can't get Travis Ward. And Byron Murphy is probably going to be a little bit cheaper. Or you could go with Ben Cleveland, right guard. Now, the Detroit Lions have a really good offensive line, but they are going to be missing a right guard. So they do need to fill that guard spot. Again, I would say the quarterback position is a little bit more important right now for the Detroit Lions, since the rest of their line is absolutely stacked. But that is personally what I would do if I was the Lions GM. Now the Green Bay Packers, they have $42 million in free agency, and I think they should go defense here. I don't think they should pull the trigger this year on getting a receiver. I think they should kind of keep their core, but I think they should go after Chase Young, edge rusher. I've mentioned him a couple times for a couple teams already, and Carlton Davis. They could get him from the division rival, the Detroit Lions, or they could get Tre'Davious Ward as well. I think that is both. I think those are all reasonable for the Green Bay Packers. They can get a nice edge rusher, Chase Young, or if they're not able to quite do that, they can help their secondary, and they're definitely going to need help in the secondary. Jair Alexander was their strongest suit, or was a couple years ago. I guess Xavier McKinney would be now, but Jair Alexander, and he's been having some injuries recently, and he's just not quite performing quite what he was capable of. Not that he's bad by any means, but you know what I mean. All right, now the Houston Texans, they're negative $2 million, so it's not too bad, but obviously it's not great being negative at all. And I think these are a couple cheap signings for the Houston Texans that would actually really help. I think they should absolutely go crazy. Now, I know they're going to have to restructure a bunch of contracts, but here, the Houston Texans are in a good spot. They got a young quarterback. They got Nico Collins, Tank Dell. They have Will Anderson. If I was the Houston Texans GM, I would do everything I possibly can to get out of negative money. And I would go after Tevin Jenkins. I would help out my offensive line get a solid. He was like one of the only solid pieces on the Bears O-line. So I'd get Tevin Jenkins. I'd get a guard. Or I'd get James Daniels from the Pittsburgh Steelers. He didn't play a whole lot last year, but he's still a solid player. Houston Texans. So that's going to help C.J. Stroud, a young quarterback. And then I would also go Kaiser White. Kaiser White is one of my favorite, most underrated linebackers from the Arizona Cardinals. But, yeah, I think that would actually be pretty good. If I was the Houston Texans GM, though, I would definitely try to get out of negative money. I mean, obviously they want to get out of negative money, right? But I'm just saying, it seems like now is the time for the Texans to be aggressive, and I think they're going to let Stephon Diggs walk. I haven't heard many reports of them talking, be on the same page, but you kind of know how Stephon Diggs is. He's a little bit of a drama queen, so who knows how it's actually going to play out. Now we got the Indianapolis Colts. The Colts have $28 million to play with here, and I think they should go after Chris Godwin. They should help Anthony Richardson get a number one. Not that Michael Pittman isn't a number one, just, I mean, Chris Godwin compared to Alec Pierce being your number two or whatever. So, obviously, that's going to help, and you get a veteran guy like that, he's going to help the young people like Alec Pierce, like I said. So, I think that'd be a really nice veteran signing for the Indianapolis Colts. I mean, they could go for running back, just because who knows how much longer Jonathan Taylor's actually going to be there. But I say they hold off on that for at least this year. And I say they try to go after Jonathan Jones or Rasul Douglas for a quarterback. All right, now the Jacksonville Jaguars, they have $31 million. So I would say for the Jaguars, they could go after John Hargrave or Byron Murphy or Travius Ward. All defense right there. And I really think they need it. I actually kind of like their offense. Trevor Lawrence did play really bad, and then he got hurt. So a little bit of uncertainty there. Their offensive line isn't horrible. It could use improvements, but it's not horrible. I like Brian Thomas Jr. a lot, obviously. I like Evan Ingram, but maybe they could get like a depth signing at their O-line. But rather than doing that, I mean, you got to think, Josh Hines-Allen, he's getting all these pressures, and he has no solid defensive tackle with him. And Trayvon Walker, a lot of people, they like to talk trash on Trayvon Walker. I don't think he's bad at all. I think he's actually really solid. Was he worth, I think he went number one or he went number two. I can't quite remember. I know he went super high, though. Was he quite worth that pick? No. He still plays like a solid player, though. He is definitely one of the better people on that Jacksonville Jaguars team. Not saying he's a superstar, but he's just one of the better players. All right, now the Kansas City Chiefs, obviously, very good team. They have made the Super Bowl the last 5 years, something like that. But they only have $950K to work with. And I'm going to say right now they should go after Anders Pete. He is pretty flexible. He can play guard. He can play any side of the guard and any side of the offensive tackle. He basically plays anywhere besides center. And, offensive linemen are so versatile and athletic that he might even be able to play center. Who knows? But anyway, he's young. Or he's not young, excuse me. He's cheap, though. He is cheap. He was on the Raiders. He didn't get used a lot. He used to be on the Saints. He didn't get used a lot. Now, I'm not saying he's great. He's not, quite what he used to be. He's always been kind of a role player. But, he's not bad. You got to think. Jawan Taylor has been actually so bad for the Kansas City Chiefs. I don't even know how he really has a starting job, to be honest. And they're going to be losing potentially Trey Smith. They probably will. So, that's a good signing. Anders P right there. You get a cheap offensive lineman who can fill in. Then you could get Van Jefferson. I got Van Jefferson there just for receivers. Now, I don't think the receivers are quite as bad as what they used to be. Rashid Rice is really good. Kelsey is still good, but he's starting to fall off a little bit. But Kelsey's still good, obviously. And then Xavier Worthy, his rookie season was a little but it ended strong. And that is good for Xavier Worthy's case. Now the Las Vegas Raiders, they have $92 million to work with. That is the second most in the NFL. And it really just depends what the Raiders are going to do here. Are they going to draft a quarterback, or will there not be any quarterbacks available? And if they don't want to do that, I mean, it sounds crazy. Take a shot at Sam Darnold as your franchise quarterback. I mean, come on. Like, he had an MVP caliber season. I know it's crazy. If you would have heard this statement 3 years ago, you would be like, Sam Darnold, oh my God, that guy is ass. But he had an MVP caliber season. You got to put some respect on his name. He's at least going to get a decent sized contract. So if the Raiders are tired of waiting around to find a quarterback and find a new era after Derek Carr, they can do Sam Darnold. They could go out and get him. If not, they could go ahead and draft one if they're able to. Or they could just wait another year. But I got Aaron Jones as well. They could go after Aaron Jones, another Minnesota Viking that they could go after. And it would be nice because the Raiders have really been lacking ever since Josh Jacobs left with the running attack. Zamir White was supposed to be the main guy, but he had a really, really bad season this year. And then I got Chris Godwin as well. He's kind of older, so I don't know how much the Raiders will actually want to do that because they're trying to build something for the future. Because let's be real, the Raiders are not going to really compete anytime soon. But if you're able to get Chris Godwin and Sam Darnold, maybe you're able to shake something up. All right, now the Los Angeles Chargers. Now they got a little bit of money to work with. They got $63 million. That is quite a bit. So I'm going to go ahead and you got the Los Angeles Chargers. I don't care how much money it is. Please get Justin Herbert another receiver to throw to other than Lad McConkey. Just go out and get somebody that's respectable. They could get T. Higgins if he does get franchise tag. They could get Chris Godwin. They could get Stephon Diggs. Just someone who's somewhat respectable. And I don't think Justin Herbert has it horrible. He could have it worse because he does have a good offensive line. So at least since he doesn't have anyone to throw to, he has a good offensive line. But still, he's got to have some kind of weapon. I mean, it's just, you guys saw what Josh Allen did before he got Stephon Diggs. Josh Allen, had a really, really bad year, or maybe 2 years before he got Stephon Diggs. So, a playmaker is a quarterback's best friend. And Justin Herbert needs a serious playmaker. Lad McConkey, I think the kid's going to be an absolute stud, but it will make him and Justin Herbert's life a lot easier if the Chargers would just go out and get a receiver. Now, the Chargers are going to also need somebody on the defensive side of the ball, so that is why I got Javon Holland as a potential pick for the Los Angeles Chargers. They do have Derwin James, but they could have Javon Holland and Derwin James switch, and that would be a really good combo. I think maybe they should try that, or I think a little bit of point of interest would be maybe going after a corner. Again, I would focus on the defense second. First priority, if you're the Los Angeles Chargers GM, go out, just get some receiver that is at least respectable, that defenses will at least respect. Los Angeles Rams, they are actually, it really depends on what they want to do here as the GM. Do you want to start planning for the post Matt Stafford era now? Because if so, I would go out and get Sam Darnold. You're not going to get a good quarterback in the draft. Obviously, you're picking late. You're a playoff caliber team. Go out and get Sam Darnold. I mean, I think that actually makes a lot of sense if you're planning for post Matt Stafford era. And if Sam Darnold doesn't work out, you could draft a quarterback in the later rounds. Sam Darnold could kind of be a mentor and maybe help him. You can say all you want about Sam Darnold, but any kind of mentor is a good mentor. I think if you have NFL experience, if you can be a good mentor, just the knowledge, the game speed, game planning, all that kind of stuff. But if they don't, they want to ride it out with Matt Stafford, go until his wheels absolutely break off. I would say go after DJ Reed, Ronnie Stanley, or Cam Robinson. The Rams are going to need some offensive tackle help, just a little bit. So Cam Robinson would definitely be the best signing possible, but Ronnie Stanley is also really good as well. And then DJ Reed, they do need some defensive backs. Now the Miami Dolphins, they are negative $5 million. I just got getting a left guard on Aaron Banks. They need to improve that offensive line a little bit more. Tua, this team is actually not bad. It just relies on, are they going to stay healthy? Is Tua going to stay healthy? Is Tyreek Hill going to be consistent? Is this team just going to stay healthy? This team is so injury prone. It's just something going on with the Dolphins every year. And I feel bad for Dolphins fans. I honestly do, because Tua, say what you want about Tua. I know he gets a lot of criticism. But yes, he's put up numbers that are similar to franchise quarterback numbers. Not saying he's quite a franchise quarterback. He's just been able to accomplish some things that franchise quarterbacks have done. So obviously, that's going to make Dolphins fans super excited. They'll be like, wow, this is our guy. And then injury after injury after injury. And obviously, it's not his fault. I feel bad for the guy. I personally think he should probably retire because, the CT is going to be absolutely crazy. And sometimes you just got to put your health first. But, yeah, Tua is not doing that. And he's going to try his hardest next year. So, yeah, please just get some offensive line help. And then I got Jeremy Chin, also safety, really solid safety, and that could help fill in Javon Holland if he's not able to come back to Miami. The Minnesota Vikings are actually interesting here. So they're going to be losing quite a bit of people if you really think about it. They're going to be losing Cam Robinson, their starting left tackle. I know he was kind of just filling in for Christian Darrisaw, but still, that was a pretty good piece to add. So I figured they would want to keep Cam Robinson in a perfect world. But the Minnesota Vikings are also going to be losing Sam Darnold, potentially, and Aaron Jones, potentially. So, a lot of big names are losing on your offense right there. And the Minnesota Vikings, I would say, get Brandon Sheriff, right guard, to help their interior O-line. They're going to need it. And then if they lose Aaron Jones, I would say go ahead and get Nick Chubb, or go ahead and get Aaron Jones. I feel like that'd be a really good signing for the Vikings. And then Zach Bond, if the Eagles are not able to keep Zach Bond, I would say definitely hop on that if you are a contending team. All right, now the New England Patriots with $119 million in the NFL, and I'm telling you, the Patriots, they better go on a spending spree here. They better make Drake May's life a lot easier. So I would go outside T. Higgins if he doesn't get franchise tagged. If he does, I would get Chris Godwin or Stephon Diggs. Then I'd get Cam Robinson. Really good protection right there. Then I would get Nick Chubb if you're not able to do that. And then I would maybe go after Javon Holland. Or, honestly, there's just so much you can do with the Patriots. But yeah, I know I listed a bunch of superstars. They can afford them all realistically. Obviously, they're not going to get them all. But, yeah, that's what I would do. I would at least get a solid receiver. Kind of like the Chargers. Just get somebody respectable that could help Drake May out tremendously. I would try to get a tackle in free agency for sure. If I was the Patriots, they don't need, they could use defensive help, but they need some offensive help because offense, with a rookie quarterback or a young quarterback now, and nobody really fears the Patriots offense, I guess I should say. Now, the New Orleans Saints, negative $54 million, worst in the NFL, but I do have a few options for them. They could go after Mike Hughes or Bryce Hall, both quarterbacks. They traded Marshawn Lattimore. Paulson Adebo is now the number one. Adebo might even hit free agency. So I would say definitely get a quarterback because they're going to need it. And they're both got current contracts under $1 million right now, so that could be a cheap option. New York Giants with $43 million, and I would say if you're not able to get a quarterback, they probably will in the draft. But I'm just saying, if not, Justin Fields or Sam Darnold. That is personally what I go after, the New York Giants. If you're not able to get a quarterback, I feel like they probably will, but who knows with the Giants front office. I don't know what they'll do. And then I would say go after Rasul Douglas or Morgan Fox. Rasul Douglas, a solid quarterback, and Morgan Fox is a solid defensive tackle. He can help out the defensive tackles with Kayvon Thibodeau off the edge. Now, the New York Jets, I would say also go after Sam Darnold. They already said that Aaron Rodgers is not coming back. They don't plan on having him. So, what are they exactly going to do? Because they aren't picking quite well enough to get a quarterback in this draft. So they could go after, I got either Justin Fields, Russell Wilson, or Sam Darnold wearing a New York Jets jersey again. Are the Jets going to try to run it back with Sam Darnold? I guess we'll see. Or they could go after Ryan Kelly or Anders Pete and get some cheap offensive linemen. The Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champions, they don't need much, obviously, but I would say just improve that defense a little bit. It's not bad whatsoever, but if you do end up losing Zach Bond, I would say there's really no replacing him, is really what I would say. But you could try to go after Robert Spillane. He obviously won't be as good as Zach Bond, but the Eagles, it's not a horrible signing. Or they could try to go after Matthew Judon or Chase Young if they do lose Josh Sweat as well. And they could maybe try to go after Eric Stokes, a solid depth piece at quarterback. Now the Pittsburgh Steelers. The Pittsburgh Steelers have $53 million to work with. That's actually quite a bit. So I would say get T. Higgins or Chris Godwin. Basically, I love how paired up T. Higgins or Chris Godwin. I know T. Higgins is most likely going to get franchise tag, but I gotta say him because he's such a big name. But basically, if you're not able to get T. Higgins, go after Chris Godwin as hard as you can. Then you can go Ben Bredeson with the guard because the Steelers do need some help there. So that's really it for the Steelers, to be honest. I mean, I don't feel like they have a bad team assembled, but it's really just interesting with that quarterback situation. They are going to be losing Najee, but I feel like Jalen Ward can help make up for it. I don't feel they should go out and sign a running back. Maybe just draft one in the later rounds, or maybe second or third if you don't want to put Jalen Ward in a workload back type of situation. Now we got the San Francisco 49ers. They have $43 million. I was actually kind of shocked to see they had that much. But I really think they should go after offensive linemen. I would say they should go after Ryan Kelly or Evan Brown. Those are the two best centers available. Ryan Kelly from the Indianapolis Colts, Evan Brown from the Arizona Cardinals. Or they could go after B.J. Hill, defensive tackle, since they're going to be losing John Hargrave. Or they could go after Javon Holland if he's willing to go to San Francisco. Now, the Seattle Seahawks, they are negative $13 million, but I do got a few options. Now, these people aren't too cheap, but they're on the cheaper side. I would say Jarek Wills Jr. or Tevin Jenkins on the offensive line. They can really help. If you could somehow get Matthew Judon to stay on a cheap deal, work on it, but obviously you're negative $13 million, so it's going to be hard to do that. Now, with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, they got $600K, so not a whole lot, but I would say they need to get a true edge rusher of Tampa Bay. So I would go with Dante Flower Jr. or Emmanuel Ogbah if I was the Tampa Bay GM. That just feels like it makes the most sense. Emmanuel Ogbah, I feel like he's going to be cheap. Dante Flower is like the world's most reliable edge rusher. He's not a superstar, but he's solidly going to give you a decent season almost every time he plays. Tennessee Titans. Now, obviously, the Titans are going to draft quarterback, but in the alternate universe they don't. I just have to say Sam Darnold's name, just in case it somehow doesn't happen. But since they're most likely going to draft a quarterback, I got getting Cam Robinson or Trent Brown or Jarek Wills Jr. You need a tackle. You need an offensive tackle for sure. And I've got maybe put Stephon Diggs. I feel like Stephon Diggs is going to want to go to more of a contending team, but Calvin Ridley is going to need a little bit of help. Can't be the only one in that receiver room. And then the Commanders, I got Chris Godwin or T. Higgins, and then Cleo Mack. Just a little bit more veteran presence on that defense that can, they really don't need veterans on the defense, but just more solid players on the defense. I don't think their defense is bad at all. Just more solid players help fill in the weak spots a little bit. So that is every team that free agents they should target this season. It is a little bit of a longer video, and it took a little bit of a while to put together. So if you guys enjoyed, a like would highly be appreciated. And if you guys enjoy Madden 25 content, NFL analysis content, I highly recommend subscribing and turning on those post notifications so you get notified every single time we post. Thank you guys so much for watching. It's around the end of the video. Make sure you guys leave a like, subscribe, turn those post notifications on. See you guys in the next video. Bye.